paranoia of a drug habit, mixed with the claustrophobia and utopian ambience of a tour bus, create unconventional situations that are the ideal breeding grounds for eccentric behaviour. If you took 5 people you work with and transplanted them to the confines of the back of a tour bus, charging across a continent from one brightly lit city to another, living like it was New Year's Eve every day and every night, and repeating, to fade, every day for a month with little more than a pack of cards and a handful of worn DVDs, the whole thing punctuated by irregular stop-offs at dimly lit mescal and grits-laden metropolis of a truck stop, little feet playing in the background, aggressive bikers and prostitutes in the foreground. Now, I'm not complaining, and I'm possibly being defensive, but things would likely to get a bit sketchy, wouldn't they? And this was our life, my life for sustained lengths of time. On top of this, music does seem to attract the OCD, ADD, bipolar, suicidal, anorexic, bulimic, power-hungry, self-obsessed, self-hating, self-harming, and are completely unself-aware. We were in a travelling cage, a mobile circus, we were a human zoo. We were always keen to experiment with whatever we could get our hands on and careful to hold on to whatever we had procured. To keep the monotony at bay. Potions, lotions, unguents, powders, pills, poultices, resins and plants, various acquaintances popping up along the way and wanting to party, added to the chaos. They'd bring the medicine cabinet, leaving us a little something to help us on our way. One of us was even referred to as the doctor. Bearing in mind the sheer amounts we would have in our possession and the fact that the border crossings were inevitable, deliveries and intake had to be timed carefully, leading to a rather over-complex stock control system. We were like a team of monkeys running an Argos shop. Anyone or anything not strapped in could whiz past you at any given time. Obviously none of these wares could be put on display, since bans took using buses and crossing countries. There's been an unofficial game of cat and mouse with those paid to uphold the law. If you get caught, not only do you lose a stash, but tour managers become disgruntled, US visas become impossible to secure, and schedules go into meltdown. We always seem to be accepting a large delivery of grass on our arrival to Seattle, next stop Vancouver, involving the most notorious border crossing in the music world. Learning to stash the stuff was key. A tour bus has many nook and cranny where illicit small packages can be hidden. Though with the excitement and forgetfulness that this brings, it can take hours to find them again. On approaching one border, we were eager to make sure we crossed it with our essentials intact. After hours of staring at the TV screen, Mr. White had noticed that the entire entertainment system was held in place by a frame secured by a dozen screws. He thought there'd be enough room behind the frame to accommodate our valuables, temporarily. Not only the narcotics themselves, but also the paraphernalia. The scales, papers, tablespoons, baggies, scarred CD cases and blockbuster cards. As the bus roared ever closer to the border, our team sprang into action. Mini screwdrivers were sourced. Microengineering was undertaken. Now that Mr. Pink was in charge of the logistics, anything to do with maps and a toolkit, we knew we were in safe hands. Mr. White was almost like an understudy to Mr. Pink, as he'd not been around for as long. Mr. Blonde was the muscle, the director of movement of anything heavy and breakable. He tried to approach the whole mission from a scientific point of view. On a tramadol high, through a broken bone, and mixed with speed and Jack and Coke in hand, he would be lifting almost twice his body weight. Mr. Purple waited quietly for events to unfold, giggling to himself, occasionally mopping a brow, picking up his dropped tools, locating screws lost because of sudden braking or bumps in the road, and chopping out the last couple of lines before the goods were hidden. Everything was removed, then meticulously replaced. The whole thing was cleaned down by Mr. White. Brows were mopped, and innocent demeanours faked. I was dispatched to check how far it was to the border. 17 miles. So we're going to be there in 20 minutes? No, you idiot. We crossed it 17 miles ago. They never stopped us. Add in the fact that the trip was through the Channel Tunnel. It was dark for much of our operation, but we hadn't noticed. The level of concentration brought about by the very thing we were trying to conceal, mixed with the unique atmosphere of a party bus, made something like this just an everyday occurrence.